Hello, this is Dan Townsley with another Furkot trip tip. This is an update to the original Watch Me First video. Furkot has made some changes and added some new features in the last year, actually quite a few features, and hopefully I'll give you some insight into how to set up your trip from the start. So let's start with a new trip and happy planning. Okay, so we've logged in, registered, and we get a new trip wizard pop up when we click the new trip button. What we can do here with this wizard is set up some default trip plan settings. Start point and end point you don't need to worry about. We can add those as we start our trip. So one of the things I like to do is type in a trip name, and I'm going to type in the trip as my default trip settings because I'm going to use this trip plan as my settings plan, and then I won't mess with it again. So my trip default settings, and then we'll go to the next page where we'll actually type in some settings. So the next page we see a begin date and end date. We want to put this way out in the future because to make this our default setting, it has to be the furthest out trip plan we have. So I'm going to be planning trips for a long time, I hope, and I'm going to set out a couple of years. Actually, my real default trips are set out for 30 years. Hopefully I'll be around that long. But anyway, we just start with a far out date here and give it a couple of days duration. And then here's the important part. If we put in a regular trip travel time, Furkot will use that as our travel time per day, and it will automatically recommend stops once we reach that duration of travel. I don't want Furkot to automatically put stops in for all of my trips. So I set the times to the same value, and that tells Furkot to let me travel 24 hours a day and don't recommend stops. I can also set my travel by settings. In this case, I'm a biker, so I set motorcycles. Lodging makes no difference because I'm going to set that per day or per trip. And now let's say we're done. And so now we get to start a new trip. I'm not going to have Furkot walk me through how to set up a trip, so I'm going to close this. And I'm going to just say, okay, I want to set up a route here so that I can set up some additional route settings. Keeping in mind that I set the settings so that Furkot would not automatically add stops for end of day lodging or for gas or for eating or anything else. So I clicked on a map, I hit enter, I clicked on the map, I hit enter, and Furkot plans a route. So now I have a route in Furkot. I now have some route settings, which are called filter display stops, and this is how I show additional things on my route. One of the new features that they've added is called advanced use, and this adds some additional features to my route plan. So I'm going to close this and then click on my route so that you see the route properties, and when you open it you'll see some settings here, route color, duration. If I turn my advanced settings off, you see those go away. If I turn it back on, you'll see I get these advanced settings again. I like these settings. If you like them, you'll want to keep that as your default. So we have two settings here in routing. One is travel off-road, the other is follow roads. Travel off-road says lock the route that I've created so that it won't reroute if I click on it and try to edit it. When I try to do that, it will let me edit the route, but only as a point-to-point type of route. In this case, like a track would be for a GPS. So I'll clear that out and I go back to setting that route path as follow roads. This tells Furkot to please calculate a route path for me. All of the other settings in my route plan have been derived from the settings I set up as we started. Okay? I can change any of those at any time in any plan. Okay? So, one of the cool things about this elevation graph is as you watch my route path on the map and I move along this graph, it'll show you where that elevation is along my route plan. Pretty cool for recognizing where passes might be that you might want to avoid in spring or fall in case the weather changes on you. But you can also go up here, for example, and change the color of the route segment to anything you want. This is handy for complex routes where you want to be able to quickly visualize a segment of your route. It also is pretty handy if you want to export your route path as a GPX track. That color will follow the track out to your GPS. So it's pretty cool. Okay, hopefully you'll have fun using Furkot, and we'll talk to you next time.